So the main thing that I'm focusing on as a mixer is the feel of it, right? Does it feel good? Because I can always go back and make small adjustments, too mid-rangey or too whatever, but does it feel good?
Is it fun?
With this, yeah. Is it fun? Are we getting the idea across?
Sounds great. Hey everyone, welcome into the beautiful Baltic Studios in London, England for one of our start to finish videos where we get to watch an engineer take us through their entire process for a mix they're doing from start to finish. Today we get the pleasure to have Kevin McCloskey, one of our great mentors at mastering.com, but also multi-Grammy nominated, multi-platinum, worked with DaBaby, Future, Giveon, Tyla, all these great artists. He is a consummate pro. He is one of the few people I just keep being reminded that he's just nerdier than me at all this stuff. And it's really fun to hang out with him, and I'm excited to watch his process and learn from him today. So he's gonna take us through an entire mix from start to finish, and we just get to look over his shoulder and learn. Welcome. Thanks for doing this.
And thank you for having me.
Tell me first about this song that we're doing.
Okay, so this is a song actually by a mastering.com student, and his name is Adam Lamb. He is a singer-songwriter based out of Arizona. He does a lot of his own production, him and I think one other person, but it's just a really, really good pop song. It has a lot of great elements. The arrangement's really good. It's not overly busy, so as we go through this session, you'll realize like, hey, there's not 1,000 stems, there's not 100 beat stems and 40 vocal stems or anything like that. It's very intentional and it's done very tastefully. And I think it's going to be a great session for us to go through and really learn some techniques as well as like mindset on how we approach mixing. That's
huge. Mindset is a big thing with all of this. It's one thing to learn how to turn some knobs on a compressor, but the mindset matters 90% of it all day. So speaking of mindset, do you have mindsets that you take in starting like any mixing project you're doing, and then any that are specific to like this project?
Yeah, I mean, I guess yes and no, and yes and no. Every project's different, and depending on the variables of that project, it's going to change how we approach it. So let's just take, for instance, this mix today. We're in a room we don't know.
Right.
In a country that we're not from, off of long trips, me on a train from another country and you're on a plane. And, so the first thing we have to do is really acclimate to the space that we're in. And that's one of the benefits of having headphones is that's always going to be consistent. But in this case, we're in a very nice studio in a very nice room. So let's, actually use the equipment to our advantage. And so as I come in, I just listen to music. So I play songs that I know, maybe a few songs that I don't know that are probably by an artist that's very similar. So this is sort of, in the box pop song. So I'm going to listen to maybe some people like Justin Bieber or, Tyla or, whoever is up on the pop charts right now. So I might listen to a few of those. Then I'm going to listen to specific songs that I know. And I'm going to listen for things like how is the top end response in the room that I'm in? How is the low end response? Overall, what is the depth? What does the stereo image feel like? Is it narrow? Is it wide? Are we getting a very focused center? All those things. And it's, we're not overthinking it, but at the same time, we do have to take into account, I know like, hey, I'm not hearing as much bass as I'm used to hearing, so I have to be careful not to push the bass, right? So that's kind of the mindset for this. If you're in your room and you're used to doing it a specific way, it's totally fine. You don't have to worry about that aspect, but that's not always the case when we're working engineers, right? We go where the work is, and sometimes that's in places that we don't know.
Yeah, it's always good to acclimate your ears anyway, but yeah, we listened to some music to start out before we began here and before the cameras started rolling. Got acclimated. We were liking the depth and image of these ATC 50s. It's a little less low end than we're used to, so we're just keeping that in mind. We don't want to start chasing the bass, and then everyone listening at home is like, "What are they doing?"
You're like, "Oh man, these guys, they've got problems."
We love the bass.
So, and that's not a disclaimer, right? So we're not saying like, oh, if this mix doesn't sound good, but it is, these are real factors. So that's why, like, if you're ever mixing at home and it's not translating to a car every time or this, like, you really need to make sure that you understand what you're listening to in that space. And that comes from just listening, right? Listening to different materials.
No, I'm really glad you brought this up, actually, because it's real world stuff. You'll find yourself in scenarios where you have to figure this out. And even in your own home studio, I'm a big fan of listening to music to start a mixing session anyway, just to get the ears recalibrated. Even if you know the space, just puts you in the mindset of that. So let's dive into session prep. You've already loaded everything in here,
right?
And kind of color coded it. But tell us that process for you and how you did it.
Okay, so I'm a firm believer in, repeatable variables yield repeatable results. So every time I do a session, I'm going to set it up the same way. And it's kick, snare, hats, and then percussion, and then whatever, maybe toms are after the snare if there's some toms in it, or if they're more like important, if there's just like a little accent tom on this song, I might put it in the drum bus. So, on my drums, then my bass, then I do keys or organ or pads, and bass is brown. I use drums as blue, but that's for default, right? So drums default, bass brown, keys purple, and then guitars here are green. So really, it can get ugly depending on what sounds I use, but I try to make it, visually pleasing too. And I do all my instruments at the top, and then I do my master section. And so if we look at a board, so this board is a smaller board, right? It's got 20 channels right here and then 8 VCAs. But say we had a 48 channel board. What happens is we have, the faders on this side or the channels on this side. Then we typically have a master section, right, which we see right here. And then we would continue those. You can set it up any way you want, but 9 times out of 10, that's how it's going to be. And that's the way I like to set up my sessions. And the idea is when I want to work on the music, I just switch up to the top. Like I flip up there. Then I know if I want to work on the vocals, I just scroll down to the other side, and that's where my vocals are at. And so I'm not really like having to look too hard at anything. I'm very specific on color coding, right? It has to be the same way every time. The layout has to be the same way every time. And the other thing that I do, and we'll see as we get more into the mix, is labeling. I'm not a stickler on labeling the tracks as much, but I am very specific about how I label like inputs to auxiliaries or sends, things like that, because I don't want to pull up, if I need to do a send to a reverb, I don't want to go to the bus and then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, what's 2526? Let me go find 2526 here. So that's the main thing. But for smaller sessions like this, I will label, or they come labeled. So one thing I don't typically do is cut out empty spaces on programmed material. Now, if it's tracked, right? If we're in a room, absolutely, I'm getting rid of all the dead space because there is a noise floor, right? There's a small amount. And if I see some, I tend to zoom in on these, right? If I do see some noise in there, I'll cut that out, that I feel like is unwanted. But for the most part, especially when, we're working in the digital world, that noise is not really an issue. So I find sometimes when I gain stage, I want to gain stage from the clip gain here instead of, from the fader. But if I start separating these regions and then I want to, make an adjustment, if they're not connected, then I have to do them multiple times or just really have to be conscious of how it's highlighted. Whereas now if I say, okay, well, I want the keys 01 to come down. Well, I can just pull it down there. I don't have to pull down one section, the next section, and the other section like that. So those are just a few of like the housekeeping things that I do on this. I guess lastly is Adam does a really good job with making the song sound the way that he wants it to sound. He gives me free reign, but really my goal in this is to make it bigger, wider, deeper, more accurate, more legible. Just get that idea across and make it sound good. Just exceed their expectations of what they thought this song could actually be, but it still be their idea, right? I don't want it to be my idea. And so what you'll see in this session is there are some sounds that sound good, and maybe I don't mess with them. Maybe I adjust the level a little bit. That's it. I don't have to EQ everything. I don't have to compress everything. Also, things like the background vocals. I liked what he did with his background vocals. So I said, hey, I want you to print those background vocals the way you have them and send it to me, but I want you to give me the lead unprocessed, other than your tuning. So he left his tuning on the lead, but I left that so that I could really make that lead shine. And so that's a lot of what we're looking at. And keep in mind, as you mix, communication with the artist is really what will make, you know, the best end result. So if there is something that they like, that you like that they're doing, they can leave it. You know, tell them like, hey man, I love that reverb. Can you print that for me, or can you leave that on there and give me two, give me one dry, give me one wet. And pick which one you want to use.
I usually like to get a wet and a dry from everybody. And I'll start with the dry, but sometimes pull in the wet. And it's a good point, because this is going to vary depending on the skill of the producer.
Absolutely.
You know, a skilled producer is in just the process of sound designing is mixing. Mm-hmm. They're shaping the sound to sound good within the spectrum of frequencies and dynamics to some degree, at least. I mean, they're staying in their creative mindset, but sometimes they don't have to think too much to do that.
Well, you know, their ear is developed into saying like, well, this kick would work better with this bass and these keys and all that. So, you know, we produce like there's no mixing. We mix like there's no mastering, other than the volume aspect of it. Yep. But, you know, like that's a rule of thumb. We don't ever want to leave it up to whoever's next in the chain to make or break this song, right? So if we're mixers, or if we're, you know, singer-songwriters, being able to do all these is super important, and you will get the best result, because now when I do these mixes, I'm enhancing, right? Mm-hmm. How often do we get terrible sessions and we fix problems for 3 hours and we're burnt out?
You can't enhance after 3 hours of fixing problems. Your ears are gone. There's nothing you can do. So, I mean, that's a whole other conversation you could have about choosing clients and hopefully having a higher expectation, especially as you continue to learn and grow, to work with people that are sending you at least decent stuff, to where you're not having to almost produce or fix or something for them, that you just get to take what they're doing, honor it, good communication, but then just send it to 11 in terms of the overall height, width, depth, just kind of the X factor of everything.
And it keeps it fun, right? It keeps us from getting burnt out.
For sure.
Because I'm sure we've all been there and got really burnt out just trying and whatever comes out of it is still not gonna ever sound that great. So
1,000%. So when you're gain staging, what are you going for in terms of volume?
I've talked to Adam about this. So when he sends me files, so his gain staging is pretty good. But what I'm shooting for is I want a peak headroom. I typically shoot for around a -5, but I'm also trying to look for a specific energy level, right? So with VU or RMS, I typically use a VU meter. And what I'll do is I will adjust these to where either my VU is hovering around 0 or my peak is around that -5. I like 5 dBA headroom. And the idea behind that is, you know, it gives us space to go up, but it also lets us know when we're in range for the specific elements of a mix that contribute the most to our loudness, which is measured in LUFS, right? So loudness units full scale. Now this is a pre-mastering reading, but low end, low mids are your main contributors to your LUFS level. If I can get those where they need to be at a, you know, to start, it's the foundation of my mix. And so that's what I'm shooting for, you know, when we talk about gain staging. So I'm just always going to pull up the clip gain. One thing you don't want to do that I don't recommend doing, now you can do it this way, but I'll explain why as well, is I'm not a fan of moving the faders early on, right? So when we're doing gain staging, we want to look from the clip gain. Now in Pro Tools, we can do it here, or we can do it as a line, but the idea is, let's just say we have a kick drum, right? And let's listen to just this kick. All right. And say that kick drum's right at the top of where we want it. And we're like, okay, I want a little bit more headroom on this. And we turn this down, right? So this is about a -5. And well, on the master fader, we see that it's lower, but on the channel it's not, right? When we look at pre-fader metering. Well, say we wanted more bass in that. Well, watch what happens when we add some bass to that. Now it's clipping. but it's not clipping here. And so if we're using the faders on these channels, then even though it's not clipping on the output or on the master channel, we're clipping within the plugin, we're clipping on the individual channel, and it's like, oh, well, every time I add low end, I get distortion, right? And so that's the idea behind doing the gain staging from a clip gain perspective versus, from the actual fader on the track. And some of you all might like this view, the mix window. I don't use it, but to each their own.
Totally agree. Yep. Use clip gain to normalize it or balance your pre-faders.
What I'll do too is I'll try to find like the densest part of the song, right? I've got these zoomed in, so these are already kind of a nice, a really nice level, maybe even a little low, but I can always use this fader here to see what's going on. Well, let's listen to, let's say the last hook. That's probably one of the densest parts of the song. All right, my VU is looking good. Now let's see where I'm going to look at the peak, right? So the true peak here. Now you can find this in different plugins. You can find it in, any type of digital EQs, transient shapers. A lot of things will give you that digital readout of peak or true peak. You don't have to worry too much about if you're using peak or true peak to get this at this stage, but let's see where we're at. Pretty good. Now say hypothetically this wasn't where we needed it to be, right? Say it was too hot. If you're dealing, depending on who you deal with, it might be like that. Same thing, I'm gonna pull up my VU meter, I'm gonna pull up my true peak meter, and I'm going to make adjustments, right? So let's scoot this over so that I can at least see what's happening. I highlight all the tracks, and I'm going to adjust these to where I fall within the range that I want them to fall into. Another thing is, in Pro Tools, if you do that, it likes to start where you're highlighted. So. Right. So we're right around that -5, and we're right around that 0 VU. One more look at it. And it's okay if it goes a little bit over, right? Because this is VU, RMS, LUFS. So LUFS is really an average across the whole song. When I'm looking at RMS, in this case, I'm looking at instantaneous RMS. So I want it to average 0. So it's okay if it goes over. And remember, this is just a very basic gain staging. You'll see as I start processing the kick, processing the bass, there's going to be more fluctuation in that. But the idea is not to say, okay, we need to hit 0 every time. It's that 0 is the average, right? So in the analog world, we have space to go over 0, and it's not clipping, right? If anything, it saturates a little bit, but in here, you're at least 5-6 dBs before that even begins to occur. So it's okay if you're going into the red here. The last thing I want to say is that I do calibrate these to 15. Most of the time, it's going to be set to 18. But if you are using, like this is the Waves VU, if you are using other VU meters, just check. 18 works. I use 15 because it allows me to push a little bit more low end. And that's just how I like to mix. I'm a dangerous mixer. I like it to be a little crunchy. I like it to be a little bit in your face. But if you feel like you're driving too much low end into your mixes by using this method, you can switch it to 18, or 16 or whatever you feel like works best for you. But it's just basically analog gear. You could calibrate it. That's all it is. It's just a way to calibrate it and offset, for your style of mixing. And if you do run into a situation where maybe the stems aren't balanced when you already get it, feel free to go in and do a scratch mix. But I would still recommend that you do it from the regions. Even if you want to get the hang of it, right? So we're like, we're mimicking the analog world, we're pulling everything down and then bringing faders up. If you want to do that, totally fine. Maybe see what that balance is and then go back and put these all back at unity gain, so back at 0, and then drop the regions down the same amount that you had it. So
Yep. For me, it kind of just depends on how good it sounds.
correct.
If it's not sounding super great, I'll probably just start over, build it out based on my instinct. And the other intangible that is nice about that process is you get really familiar with each of the elements of the song. But I think if it sounds great, kind of maybe you don't take the time to do that.
Yeah. And I know, part of the curriculum, part of the TRE curriculum that you all have, it does recommend that, right? So I don't want to ever say like, hey, don't do this, don't do that. But like Caleb said, when things sound good, it's like, we don't want to mess with that balance.
Yeah.
So, the further you get into this, the better producers, the better artists you deal with, a lot of what you get is already kind of balanced how they like it. And that's your starting point versus going back 10 steps and then recreating a starting point, right?
Yep.
So it's very situational, but that's my 2 cents on that. So let's jump into it. What's the most important to me when I'm doing a mix is getting the foundation of a mix that is the loudness that I want and has the impact that I want. That's the biggest thing. So the way I like to mix is I like to mix, my main percussive elements. So my kick, my snare, even my hats. Then I like to mix my bass, right? So if it's an 808, if it's a sub bass, or even a bass guitar, those are the main things that I'm mixing. And once I get that balance that falls within the 0 VU, the -5 peak range that I want, then I do a mastering stage. With the mastering stage, the main contributors to our overall loudness, our LUFS level, is the low and low mids. So as long as I can get those up to where I'm hitting like a -8-ish, -9 LUFS, and it still punches, right? I still have depth in that. Then I know everything else that I add to that mix will still have that punch. What happens to a lot of us early on is that we do a really great mix and we're like, man, we have the depth that we want, our reverbs sound great, all this. And then we realize, oh, it's not loud enough. Well, so what do? We put a limiter on it or a maximizer. Well, it's just high ratio compression, essentially. And compression, by nature, is intended to decrease the dynamic range of a signal, right? So that means that the difference between your softest sounds and your loudest sounds is then decreased. And it's not decreased by bringing the loudness down. It kind of stops the loudness, and then you push the bottom up. So that means your vocals get pushed forward, right? The reverbs get pushed forward. The other elements that don't have a lot of low-end contribution, because those are kind of getting caught first, your hi-hats get louder. So now your mix is brighter and it's flatter and it's harsh on the ears. And then you take the limiter off, you're like, oh, well, that sounds amazing. Well, unfortunately, mixing good is not the world that we live in. Being able to mix good is important as we learn, but in the real world, we have to be able to mix well at a master level. And that's what essentially I try to do with this specific method. It's what I found works for me over the years. You can do whatever you want to do that works for you.
Everyone's going to have a different method for this. I personally don't do that, but there's nothing wrong with doing it. It just matters more if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Either way.
I've messed things up a lot my entire career. So this is me, what works for me.
Yep.
So I'll just start with the kick. I love a good kick drum sound. I want it to be punchy. I want the low end. I really, really want to shape this. I do have to remember that it is a pop song, but it doesn't mean that it can't be, robust. Okay. Okay, so what I see with this is that I still have a good bit of room to go. I'm going to try to shoot for that 0 VU. I'm going to try to shoot for the -5, right? So I set my kick and my snare to that -5, and then I want the low end of that kick to bounce around that 0 VU. So great plugin, great channel strip, the SSL 9000J from Plugin Alliance. Let's push some low end in it. Let's see if we can change this, shape it up a little bit. All right. I like the way that feels. Let's see where we're at. Peak. Still got a little peak. Now, it does make it round. And to offset that, you know, I pulled back on the output, right? A few dB. The really cool thing about this compressor on this is it pushes the transient forward. So we still have a few dB to go for that peak. So. All right. And really what I'm focusing on a lot is making sure that 0 VU doesn't go crazy, because if it gets too hot, it means there's too much low end. Right at -4.9, we're a hair over 0. Pop song, let's just pull it back. I'm gonna pull it back. All right, I'm happy with that. Before, after. All right. Yeah, don't be scared to push the low end of kicks and then adjust the output. Because you really, really want that transient to sit forward, because that's where our depth's going to come from. The main reason why I'm doing it this way too is I want that depth, because I want a pocket for the vocals to sit in. I want the support from the low end, then I'm going to bring out everything up around it. So kick, let's go into snare. So we have this snare and this clap. So Adam decided to push this clap off to the right. And I think that is a dumb decision. So I'm going to sneak it back to the middle and not tell him. And hopefully he's not like, hey man, for some reason I just don't hear enough clap in my right ear, right? Because it's a great clap sound, it's a great snare sound, but it'll make that mix, it'll pull that mix to the right. It'll pull it off balance. Things like kick do really well up the middle, snare do really well up the middle. In pop and hip hop, hi-hats do well up the middle because they usually sit in a specific frequency range. So don't be scared if you don't have something that will balance something out on the other side. So say like you have a hi-hat, sometimes it's better to put it more in the middle, because if you put it hard left, then it pulls your mix to the left. Just something to think about, but you can do whatever you want. So I'm going to process this snare and this clap as if it's one sound, because they play together the entire song and they're in the same range. So the one thing I'm going to do before I bust these to like a snare clap auxiliary is I'm going to shift this clap over. Now we can pan it. There's lots of ways you can do it, and this is essentially panning as well. I don't want to use something like the S1, like it's like a stereo imager, and close it, because I do like what it's doing. I don't want to make it too compact, but I do just want to balance out the left and right. So a great plugin to do this on that I really like is the REQ2 from Waves. And we can unlink the tracks. So where it says left and right, we just do that, and then we can adjust each one. So it'll tell us our outputs here, then we can just pull it down to where it matches. It'll tell us our outputs down here, sorry. So this is at 17.3, this is at 10.2. That's what, a 7 dB difference. Let's pull this one down. Well, it's already, I was pulled down 1.5, so 9. Close. Let's take this up, -8.5. Close enough, right? So now that we have those, right, so that's problem solving, that's fixing the problem, right? Let's go back to enhancing. The thing about mixing too is don't ever forget that it's organic. That means that each element of the mix affects the next element of the mix. That's why the order that you mix in is incredibly important. We have to mix in a consistent way the majority of the time to get used to how these elements react, right? We have to get used to how these elements are going to affect whatever comes next.
So you're kind of saying that you like to do it in the same order every time because you're remembering and analyzing the relationship between things as you go through.
For sure.
So it's going to start to feel familiar how it should sound.
Yes.
In terms of the relationships.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like the reason why we go and we listen to our references, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we understand how the room should respond. We understand how the mix should respond, because we can mix a guitar all day in solo and make it sound great, but that doesn't mean it sounds good in a mix, right? We can mix a vocal all day. It doesn't mean it's going to sound good in a mix. And you have to pick a starting point, right? So for me,
totally.
I love the depth that comes from a well-mixed kick drum. And it just really, I want the depth from the kick, the snare, and I want the vocal to live in that depth. Then I want the bass to support, and I want everything else to kind of come up around it. And that's what I like. It doesn't mean it's the right way, but I know as I mix, I start to hear if the depth isn't correct, or the, the frequencies are, leaning one way or the other, or too bright or whatever. You get in tune with it, but it takes a long time. Yep. Like I said, repeatable variables yield repeatable results, right? We keep doing the same thing over and over and taking out what doesn't work.
I love that concept. That's great.
So let's get this little loop going. Let's process these claps. All right, remember we talked about naming these. So I already have one named snare clap. Send our outputs to snare clap. So I'm sending both of these to this bus, and I'm going to process them at the same time. I'm not going to do any other processing to them in here. So it's really important to also listen to what they might need. I want them to stand out a little more, so I'm going to use a transient shaper here. And what that does is sort of the opposite of compression, is it over-exaggerates the attack of the sound, right, versus decreasing the dynamic range. Now, sometimes you can shape a sound and make the transient pop with the compressor if it's very slow by allowing that to come through and then grabbing everything behind it. But what's really happening here is I'm letting that sound be and then making the front of the attack stand out. And what it'll do is it will make that sound feel like it moves forward, right? Because it's like we're making a terrarium, like we're placing things in a terrarium, like a 3D cube, right? We're not painting on a canvas, right? That's 2D. You can do mixes like that where your kick, everything sounds really good, but it's flat, right? We don't want that. We want it deep. And the transient is what's going to determine how close or how far away something feels. You can also do it with volume, but to me, it doesn't have the same impact, right? So we want to have like that control. I want to be able to say, I want that snare drum to sit right here, or I want that snare drum to sit right here.
So you think of transient shaping in terms of the depth dimension.
Correct.
Of the...
Yes.
That's interesting.
Well, when things sound good.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like if it's like a really crappy sound,
you're
like
just
we'll crank it just to be like, okay,
it.
that's something that's maybe competitive.
But in terms of enhancement,
correct. You're
thinking depth.
So like something right there, that snare feels way more, close to us than. So, finding something in between those that feels good. I'll start back here. I'm watching my output too. I'm still looking for that -5. So in this case, it's picking up that snare, but I think the snare has good transient. So I'm going to start rolling off using this high pass filter, right? Or sidechain filter. Yep. And it's going to not catch the low end. So it's going to be more the clap that jumps out now. The only problem with that is it might get too bright. Right. We also don't want it to be more prominent than the kick. The kick feels good, but maybe we need a little bit more detail when we do that. So let me throw one of these on this kick, see if I can. just a little bit more. And so when I get it there, now I know, like, sometimes -5 is a little hot for a pop track. You know, like a boom bap rap track, perfect. So I might back it off a little bit. It just depends on how I feel. I'll back it off just a hair. But I know I'm close within range of where it needs to be. All right, perfect. Next thing, start adding my hats. So that's a chunky hat. Let's see what the other hats sound like in the shakers, right? So there's 3 playing at the same time. Let's see how that feels. Because I don't want to start like going in and really EQing that one heavy, because it might just be a layer, right? It might be meant to give some variation between the pre-hook here and the hook, and that's what it looks like. So okay, it's already got a little bit of panning on it. I like it. Let's so what I'm gonna do is just enhance it. Right? I don't feel like I have to fix anything. I don't mind that it's a little chunkier down there. Let's see. Stereo auxiliary. And we'll call this one cymbal and percussion. Okay. We also have to make sure that these are going to the correct place. I send these to a mix bus, and you'll see why in a second. But they could be going to your monitor out or whatever. I just don't like to bounce to disk. I like to print within the mix, because sometimes I do use analog gear on like a master chain for some texture. So I like to be able to do that. Also, if you follow your gain staging correctly, you should be able to plug straight into some analog gear out of this and not have to readjust. Right. So if you're coming in, you're like, I'm going to give myself 15 dB of headroom every mix, that's fine. But in the analog world, right, we're not hitting the sweet spot on this gear. So there is a little bit of analog mojo that you get from saturating transformers or or driving tubes just a little bit. And this is a good range to do it.
Right. Too much or too little could be a problem.
You probably have a bigger problem with too much, but just right is magic.
Too little is not a problem as much as it's just not utilizing the purpose of it.
Right. Yeah, it's like you won't really hear a difference.
It doesn't.
You'll trick yourself, and then you're like, I don't remember which one it was. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm also messing with the transients, right? So I want this to sit more forward, and then I'm gonna turn it down in the mix, right? So I want it to be a little bit more articulate than it is. The reason why I have it sitting down farther is because I know when I go into the mastering stage, that's going to get brought up. So I'm not as worried about this, because I can make a quick adjustment if I feel like it's too low or too high. But the brightness of your percussion, the brightness of your hats is going to dictate the brightness of your vocals. Also your snare. Your snare level is usually the indicator if your vocals are on top of the beat or if they're inside of the beat. So remember, like, your percussion can be the reason, why your vocals are too bright or not bright enough. And your snare can be the reason why your vocals seem too on top of the beat or too inside of it. Okay, so I'm going to try one more thing. It's cool, but I'm going to get more into enhancing. There's a fun plugin called the Renaissance Axe. It's great for guitars. It's actually good for vocals and percussion, and it will push things forward, but it kind of does this automatic gain makeup. But the cool thing is that we have the attack. Right, so I can make that attack longer. So what's happening now is that I'm turning it down, but it's the way the transients are jumping out a little bit, it just cleans up the mix some, to me. Like if you were like accenting more versus just being like now it's
sometimes it's a hard concept to explain how lots of different things can affect the frequencies. It's not just EQ that affects frequencies.
Right.
It's compressors, limiters, all sorts of things, transient designers. You're painting the frequency.
I use very little EQ. I don't know how much EQ you use, but I don't use
Depends
a ton
on
of
the
it.
song.
I really sometimes EQ makes things sound. It takes it out of phase, right? So
yeah.
you lose the richness of the sound.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it's considered EQing, like if you're doing some sort of multi-band compression or whatever. But in my head, I feel like I'm keeping the integrity of the sound.
You're using your attack and release and different things that are similar to that within compression to alter the transient part of it or the body part of it.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And in doing so, you're EQing.
Mm-hmm. And and a lot of these things I can mess around with. So like if I wanted to take the sustain of something, right, and EQ that, it's going to sound different than if I took that. It'll sound different than if I took. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe I want that attack to stand out a little bit more, but then I want the body of it to be something that, we have a lot of control. What you don't want to do is get consumed by the control. And if you ever watch, not me, but I'm sure the other people that, that are on these, is that it's a lot more feel, right? We're not like,
for sure.
I mean, we're just like, move it till it sounds good there.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard at first because we don't always trust our ears. But that's but that's why we do what we do. Consistency over time. Okay, so next, I'm not worried about these. As I look at these other percussion stuff, like it's maybe this is doing something. I can listen to it. So that's got like it's like this ambient bed. I don't want to like do a bunch of compression. So if I throw it through this, then it's gonna get slammed forward, and I just want it. I need that space, right? I need that space for reverbs. I need that space for the tails of the guitar coming off, right? So I'm just going to use that to taste, because the main thing I'm focusing on is the kick, the snare, the percussion stuff that's really establishing the depth foundation. So
whenever I see an effects aux, essentially is what it is, probably.
Yeah.
I assess really quickly whether I really like it or not, or if I could do it better.
There you go.
And if I could do it better, I make a note to myself. They had this going on, recreate it, do it better, and then they'll love it.
Yep. That's one of the ones where it's like you said, whatever, turn it up or down. It's not going to make or break the mix. Let's just not use it. Let's not mess something up. Yeah. And if they don't like it, then you let them say, hey, that alien sound I did, we need that up. And you're like, okay, whatever.
They can always tell you.
Yeah. So, all right, now bass. So the only problem with that is that it's lazy, right? It's kind of got this, almost like it bleeds into the next one. I'm not digging it, but it's okay, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this VU meter back out, and we're going to watch where these are at, because I don't want to go crazy. Right, so you see how they combine. It's okay, but it's probably a little heavy. I'm a little bit hotter than I want to be on that. So let me pull this down. Where is this at? 0.2. I'll pull it down 3 dB. We'll see how that feels. Remember, increments of 2 dB are what I recommend to make changes that are actually audible. Right? 1 dB, you're not really going to hear a difference. Don't be scared. We're going to go broad to short, right? Big to small. There we go. And that's okay that it's going over it a little bit. I'm not mad at it.
It also means they're sharing some frequencies.
Correct. And so also be careful, like to say like, oh, I'm going to have to, side chain this or do something. Like, yes and no. If for specific genres like EDM stuff, if you really want it to be whoop, whoop, then yeah, side chain it. But really your best bet is just to try to make the two sounds work good together. And as a producer, if they're a good producer, they will pick two sounds that work good together.
I always think of it as like, if it needs something, if I need to clear up space for whatever reason, it's just like take the best part of each one. Take where the magic is, and then The other stuff doesn't
whatever.
matter as much. Take
You know,
that away.
remember, it's organic. The other stuff is going to come in on that mix. So
Right.
you're exactly right. It's just find what works on it and work around that. Maybe you enhance a little bit here or there, but
Yeah.
it's not that big a deal, right? Just make it sound good.
Yep.
I'll bring it down. What am I at? Negative 2.8. Let's go negative 3.8. So about 4 dB down. Let's see. All right, I'm not mad at that. Let's see what's going on with this dirty sound. All right, that one's a little high. Let's see. So I'm kind of okay with where my low end is at for right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna not pay attention to it. Now, ideally, I might go in and make some adjustments, but I might pop like a VCA compressor on there, and that'll catch just a little bit of that, right? So that might save me a dB on that VU. So I know in my head, okay, I'm gonna get there. And if I need to, if I like the way that it sounds, it's just as easy as grouping them and pulling them down 2 dB to keep my back into my gain staging, right?
Yep.
But it's really right now at this point, I know I have a good balance. I know I have a good foundation. It's just what sounds good.
Right.
So I'm doing how now I'm going off feel. At first I was kind of doing a little more technical. Now it's a little bit more creative, artistic. Okay, so now let me see what's going on with this bass on this other side. Okay, so it drops an octave. All right. So I don't really want to. If this didn't drop an octave, I might mess with it. But let's see what happens if I can widen it some. Let's use some harmonic saturation. A good plugin for this is Spectre. It's by Waves Factory. It's a really cool plugin. It's a lot like the Carnaby EQs, if you've ever messed with those. But it looks like an EQ, but really it's harmonic saturation. And you can choose what type of harmonic saturation. But it only boosts, right? So we can't take away. So we can only add to it.
Interesting.
And the cool thing is that it does left, right, and does mid-side.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this on. Let's do tube. Tube has a little bit more sizzle, a little more bite to it. So I'm going to try to push the sides on this and see if it widens it up. Let me try another sound. Let's see. Tube. Let's try tape. Right, nothing crazy. Let's see how it feels on the lower one. It's a little sharp for me. So now we can figure out different ways to make the adjustments on it. Let's see if we can find something that's like a rubbery style EQ. So it's maybe like a VCA, so a DVX 160. This is where knowing your equipment comes really in handy. Because there's lots of different types of compressors that do a lot of different things, but it's not just your envelope, right? It can be textural.
Totally.
This will give it more of like a rubber sound.
Okay.
So we'll find the DBX 160.
And as we do this, since rubber could mean all sorts of different things to different people.
It's sort of it's like a softer, rounder top end, but in a gooey type of way. It's not like when we take a pool tech, right, and we roll off the highs. That's not what we're doing. This is a little bit more, it's got a different texture to it.
Yeah.
The 160s do a good job of it. The VCA comp, so like the G-Bus compressor does a good job of it.
Yep.
I just kind of like the way the DBX bounces. I might take it out. Who knows? I just want to hear it.
Yeah, I always like it.
Okay, that's a little bit better. And then I'm going to take a little bit, I'm going to EQ some of that top out just because I'm not feeling it. I'm also worried that that's right at about 1K.
Yep.
And I'm worried that that's going to,
A lot of stuff's going to sit
it's going
there
to mess
by the
with the
end of
vocals.
this. Yep.
So, and I did it just on the mid, just to see how it felt. So if we do it under stereo, when we did it as stereo, it actually kind of kills what's happening in the top. And I like that, right? Because the lead vocal is going to be up the middle.
Yeah, I like that.
So I just dipped it a little bit there. Nothing crazy, whatever it felt like. I mean, I guess 8 dB is probably crazy, but who cares? It really depends on what it sounds like. I mean, look, even on this kick, we boosted the low end, I don't know how much, 12 dB? It's like, who cares? It is whatever. Do not get caught up on how anything looks. It's almost better, too, starting out to use like analog style gear because you don't get caught up in how it looks. All right, so there we go. Foundation. All right, now let's get it up to volume. So this is kind of like the hard part. The rest of it's pretty easy. We're going to just start adding the elements in order of importance. So what I do here is I'll do a mastering stage to get it to the loudness that I want. I'll still go back and make some small mastering adjustments later on, like at the end of the mix. But for now, my favorite limiter is this master plan. So when you do this technique, what I'm doing, it's usually about 9 dB, which will get us up to where we want to shoot for. So let's see. All right, let's turn this down. This bass is killing me. Because what I still want to hear is the kick and the snare to have that depth, right? I don't want to lose that. And when certain elements are too loud, then we lose it. Like this was too loud, so I was losing it. So we're close. We're at like a -11. So the things I'm starting to hear now is that maybe the kick's a little heavy. So let me pull back on this transient shaver. And that'll allow me to push a little more. I'm listening for if like it's gonna break apart or not. So now the loudness feels good, but I could still get a little bit more lufs out of it, right? So let's push a little bit more of this bass that we pulled down 4 dB. Let's see if it holds. Cool, so that gave us a dB. Now here's a fun little trick. Typically, you'll put the output of your final limiter at like a -0.3. Well, I'll put it at a -0.1 to keep it from clipping on this one, but I'll put this other limiter behind it that does a lot more transient response. So this is the Newfangled Audio Elevate.
Yeah, this is cool.
And so now here's where I put my ceiling at -0.3. And the reason why I set that as your final limiter, because it protects kind of like digital overs when you're creating MP3s and things like that. It used to be more relevant in the past, but it's still, a lot of people either do a -3 or a -0.3 or even down to a -1. There's not a rule. People have different, ideas behind it, but as long as you're not clipping, you're fine. We just don't want it, we don't want it like quality control to catch it.
Right.
it will limit a little bit, but it'll pull those transients back out. So here's without it. With it. So it goes from being like kind of that roundness that we get from limiting to all of a sudden to those snares just sitting out just a hair.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that.
You can hear it really good on these ATCs, which I think that's nice. Losing volume. Where's my volume going? So that's the problem. It's on dim.
Oh.
And so this is a really good example of why understanding your meters is important. Because the only thing that was changing, it really wasn't our balance. It was just that this was knocking off however many dB when we had it on hit dim by accident. So when you look at those meters, it's like, yeah, it sounds good, but I know I'm only at a negative 15 LUFS when I was at a negative 10 before. Like, where's this coming from? And those are the problems that we have to solve.
Yep.
So let's check it now. Hear how that kick is getting kind of funny now?
Yep.
That's where we have to make sure that we're making the right adjustment. And just for fun, I want to hear how this kick sounds if I flip the phase against the bass. All right, I prefer it like that. Let me increase this. So what's happening now is that what was working before, now at the volume that we wanted, it doesn't, right? It's just a little tubby. It's a little not quite. So let's, instead of 60, it's pop. Let's try 65. So another thing that we can do here, which is a really good plugin for this, is the ozone. And what I like to do with the ozone is they have this, in the newer versions, they have this thing called low-end focus. And when we're having that issue that we're having right there, because we're trying to get it to a certain volume and we know below that volume it's working, it's just how the limiters react, right? If we use different limiters, it's going to sound a little different. So I'm going to use this to try to clean that up some. So let's listen to it. There we go. Cool. That gave us about a half dB on that. It's not crazy loud, but remember, it's a pop song. And as we add the other elements too, you'll notice our LUFS might get high on this. It might get like a -7, -6, kind of as we get to mixing it the rest of the way. So don't count it out now. And I'm okay with where that is now, because now I have the loudness that we want. Now I have the punch, the depth that we want. And I'm going to mix this with the order of importance. So in any pop song is... really in any top 40 songs, the star of the show are the vocals.
Right? Almost always in any genre.
Right? Now we're always going to hear drums, we're always going to hear bass, and then vocals. Everything else, it just really depends on what the mixer wants. So it could be guitars, or it could be keys, it could be synths. It's genre specific, or whatever. But that killer lead vocal is, to me, what's super important. So as I mix these, what I'm listening for is the way that the vocal sounds against the mastered drums and bass. And that's going to tell me where my reverbs need to be. It's going to tell me how much compression I need to do on the vocals, all that stuff.
Right.
And once I get that, I'm just going to make everything else work with that lead vocal. So the acoustic guitars have to work with the lead vocal. The keys have to work with the lead vocal. The lead vocal will never work with these. These other elements will work with this lead vocal.
Yes.
That's my approach. Does it happen like that all the time? I don't know. But
That's the goal.
in my head, it's like, yeah, you know, we're right here with the lead vocal. So what I'm going to do is I'll find usually a section of the song that has a lot of these elements playing. You know, this hook is a little different because we have certain background vocals, but I'm going to jump into it right here, I think. So we really feel the transients. All right. You really want your mix to bounce when it's just the drums and the bass, right? And the vocal, like, if they're not really holding that space well, then you might want to go back and relook at the mix. So, but I love it to hear it. Like, if you dropped everything out but the drums and the bass and the vocals, is it like the most rocking thing? Like, does it make you want to, you know?
Yeah.
That's just how I feel. It doesn't make it right or wrong.
We were always chilling.
So that's a routing thing. So that's not routed to my mix bus. That's why it feels like it's behind. So we're going to route this to the vocal bus. So I'm going to send all these vocals here. But I'm just going to start with the lead.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out. Said we make $1 million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down.
So this is tuned, and he used like a bit of Melodyne, a bit of auto-tune. I often like to tell the artist to send it to me with their tuning on it. And that way they're not like, oh, this note is funny or that note is funny. Like, however they want it is how they want it. I might say, hey, I don't like this. And they're like, okay, let me rethink that. But
Especially if it's a stylistic thing too.
yeah. There's like, I think the last time I checked there was 4,000 versions of autotune. You know, it's, you know, and they don't ever work with the previous ones. So you end up buying like 2 or 3, 5 versions of it. And then you're like, you know what, screw this. And they'll have that one autotune that you don't have that time.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah.
It's
If
just, it's
it
easier
sounds
that
good and
way.
they've done the work, then that's how they want it.
It's not your job to go back and redo the things that they love. You know, just
sure.
send me the stuff that you love and we'll leave that in and I'll fix everything else. So
Hang out. Said we make $1 million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet. And we were dancing off beat. We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out.
So the first thing we need to do is figure out what needs to be fixed in it before we enhance. So the main thing I'm hearing right now is that there's a little bit of mud, and the S's are a little jumping out. I like to approach the S's first, but remember that that mud, as we compress, right, as we get the level to be a little bit more consistent through here, that's going to come forward, right? So we got to be careful with that. So let's just dive in, and I'm going to see if we can control it. I usually DS in multiple stages, and the de-esser that you pick makes a big difference. So something like the Fab Filter DS is a great one to keep the S's intact. With this, because the microphone is like a good microphone, but it's not great, I want to soften it. I want to polish it up. So I have to use specific either compression, de-essers, or some sort of preamp emulations to give it the texture that I want before I boost it. So I want it to sound like kind of like a U87 sound, or you know, not even like a C800. I really want it to be like kind of a U87 that really polished neutral sound.
Interested to see what you reach for here. I would go Weiss DS.
Yeah, that's not fair. Were you looking at the session?
No, I was just telling you what I would do. It's good at taking a whole range.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out. said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing.
So the idea too is that we don't want to completely get rid of it, right? We're slowly working on this texture.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were.
Cool. I like it.
Some magic plugin.
Yeah, that one sounds really good. It sounds really good. It's not for everything, but
Nope.
it works for a lot of things.
When it works, it's so good.
Yeah.
Nothing is so clean and transparent.
Now, one thing I hear a lot of people always kind of talk about was like, oh, you should EQ before compression or compress before EQ. It doesn't matter. Not to me, it doesn't. And if anybody like nerds out on the specifics why, then you ask them, well, why do you compress on the way in before you ever hit an EQ? And then they'll be like, oh, so sorry. I just always think it's funny. Like the most opinionated people about mixing are the ones that really don't do it. There's all these rules and reasons why they're not successful at it. It's literally whatever works for you and whatever makes the most sense. And it can sound amazing and no one's ever going to be like, yeah, but they compress before they EQ on that vocal, so
Therefore
strip them, get that plaque away from them.
No Grammy for you.
Yeah. For this, the way I see it is, as we look at this lead vocal, there's fluctuation here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would typically do, like from a tracking perspective, is pop an EQ on there to catch some of those. Now, there's lots of different ones you can use, but I also still want to continue texturally down this path. So I can do some preamp stuff. I could do some channel strip things. I could do different EQs. So one really good EQ for this sound is the 1176.
Mm-hmm.
I like the revision E from UAD. It's got a very specific sound. And it's not, sometimes the revision A's can really cut through the mix, which is great. But it's also, sometimes I don't want that, So let's grab this revision E and we'll get some of the front. So I use 1176 wide open. So all the way slow, all the way fast, all the way slow attack, all the way fast release. Something to always keep in mind about the 1176 is even at its slowest point, it's still faster than almost any compressor out there, any analog compressor.
Yeah.
Even at the slowest, this 1176 is really fast. So don't be scared to leave it wide open. But yeah, so I'm going to level this out a little bit so that when I hit the other compressors, it's more consistent. Because what I don't want is it like to hit harder and then over compress the words after it because it's not controlled coming in.
Right.
So this is more for, it does have texture, but it is for a little bit of control. I'm shooting for whatever sounds good, but usually on these like a 3 to 5 dB.
Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next.
So the beginning of these doesn't have any.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the back street, and we were dancing offbeat. We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah.
What you'll notice is like, it's not going all the time, but it's intended to catch the ones that are loud, right? And so on this, what we see is there will be times when there's more compression. Don't worry about that. It's all in how it sounds.
Yep.
Another thing to keep in mind too is like release, right? So if the slower the release on this, the more contained the vocal is, right? The faster the release, the more in your face. I don't want to overcompress these vocals. I really want them to stand out in the mix. So I have a fast release, but I'll show you what it sounds like if it's a slow release.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in
Right, so that's just something to keep in mind, right? So attack and release are incredibly important when we're mixing, especially in vocals. And sometimes it's to taste, but it might be a little bit slower, it might be a little bit faster. With the 1176, I still like to do it really fast, but there's nothing wrong with backing it off some, because what I'll do is I'll bring something like an LA2A or a CL1B or some sort of opto style compressor on the back end that's going to be a little bit slower, and we'll kind of tame the aggressiveness of it.
Got it.
So the other thing that happens when we do this is that low mid comes out, right? So keep in mind that
we have to figure that out.
Now might be a good time to start EQing. But the last thing, I still don't feel like my texture is good. So I'm going to use something like the Mixwave, like the CA70S. And so this is modeled after this Coil Audio preamp. And
we were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah. But now we.
So yes, it sounds like the low end got bigger on it, but I'm listening to the top end right now.
Right.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those.
That sounds like, I bet a lot of engineers are using that. I hear that a lot. I hear that top end sound.
Right. It will, well, if you get a good recording, a good microphone, you do a good, nice preamp combination, and a good compressor preamp combo, you can get that sound.
Either that or, so that's emulating just like that great.
It's just that nice, rich, high quality preamp, good recording, good microphone sound.
Slightly saturated.
Yeah, and now sometimes it can be too much, but in this case it does. It's perfect for when something is like close like this.
That's a sound I hear a lot in pop and R&B, hip hop.
So now, now what I'm going to do is just kind of control it, right? So I'm going to go in and do a little bit of EQing, a lot of dynamic EQing, because I have access to that now, and that's just simply because I don't want, certain dips to happen all the time if they don't need it. So let's find it.
We were always chilling.
Let's roll off some lows. Don't be scared of this either.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we.
Remember, when we start taking these lows out, it's going to make the highs jump out. So
we were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off beat.
okay, so I'm just really trying to reduce some of that boominess, and then like around that 4 to 6K. So a lot of times that 4 to 6K to me is like the amateur sound.
Yeah, karaoke.
Right.
I always call it karaoke.
It's for a long time I didn't mess with it too much. But if you really kind of want more of like that pro vocal sound, pay a little bit more attention to that 4 to 6K, because it's like this cut through that's more. It works. It doesn't sound bad, but it's not. It just doesn't have that sound, right? That it sound.
I totally agree. I think it's a big deal, actually.
Oh, well. So, yeah. Now, here, I'm hearing some fluctuations still, right? So I need a little bit more compression. Let's try something like a CL1B. I don't like a CL1B for the compression really, usually, but I think I can make it work for this. Tube tag, CL1B. Okay.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out. So we make a
Remember, when I compress this, we're gonna hear that low mid kind of jump back out again.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out. So we make $1 million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet. And we were dancing off beat.
And I'm trying to make this sound as good as I can without reverb.
Of course, yeah. Right. Reverb just covers up problems you might hear or potential enhancements you might hear.
For sure.
Yeah, but now we can't afford a house. And
let's do a little bit more compression. I just want to lock it in. Let's see what we have here. So one of my favorites to use is a VCA compressor. So we're gonna use this G bus. Let's put it on. Let's do the auto release on it. Remember, the higher the ratio, the harder the need. So for vocals, we kind of want to usually a little bit softer ratio for a more natural compression.
Yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry.
All right, so that's feeling good, like where it's controlled and I like the texture. Let's do another de-esser because I'm going to boost this top in. So Fab Filter Pro DS, I think it's a good one.
Yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet.
The percussion is bouncing off the vocal
We were dancing off
right, but that's kind of dictating where that percussion's at. How it's bouncing is dictating where we can make the clarity in the vocals. So now with something like the Mag EQ, let's bring in the top in. It makes it a lot more pop.
Yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry.
All right, I'm liking that. Now what I'll do is I'll put this a little bit more in your face with the R comp and the RVox. Excuse me. It's like the Renaissance Axe, but we don't have the.
I was going to say RVox, yeah.
Yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had.
Now our snare level is going to dictate if our vocals are up front or back, or how the vocal relates to the snare.
Yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet.
Okay. All right. And so the only thing is that I would normally do this on this channel because I might run other vocals to it.
Right.
So I have this going on just the single lead, but just because it's single lead, but I would normally run this. So like if there was another verse and the verse was on a different track or whatever,
right,
it would feed like this vocal bus.
crazy dreams we had when we were.
And something I want you to see too, I think will be super useful, is if we just randomly commit this, let's just look at what it looks like processing wise. But do you have any thoughts or any questions on kind of where we're at with it?
It's a very interesting process there. Noticed you didn't do any like manual gain stuff on the vocal.
Well, the compression really helps with that.
Yeah.
If there is something that's like making it hit the compressor funny, or the distance from the microphone is like noticeable or audible, then I'll make those changes.
Yeah.
But typically I will do automation more at the end. So I'm doing everything to kind of get like the technical stuff where it's locked in, and then the end is where we go up and down with it.
Interesting.
Kind of replay it a little bit. But in this, the way he articulates in the background vocals and the changes in the production, I don't have to do too much of that.
To your point, you said earlier, if any of those spikes that you're seeing or any of that stuff does hit the compressor too hard, just go in and
Just
do a
go in
little
and change
gain
it.
move, and that can really help with it.
But as you can see here,
Yeah, look at that.
now we have control, right? Because it's kind of going to be the same volume. So then we can choose, okay, do we need 2 dB here? Do we need that? Unless they're just like absolutely amazing, killing it. And this is like an example of like a really good vocal with a good recording, with decent equipment. And, but if you have something that's like amazing performance, amazing equipment, amazing room, then, maybe you don't have to do that as much. But in this case, I'm going to control it. Now, let's sweeten it up. Let's make it fit the space a little bit.
Said we make $1 million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had. Those crazy dreams we.
So what I'm going to use for this is a room reverb. I'm going to use a delay, and I'm going to use a little chamber reverb. And the idea is I'm just going to try to make it sound really good, like really lush. So room reverbs are a cool little secret that a lot of people don't use. But if you catch the right one, I love the Broadcasty emulations. So I'm using Verb Suite Classics here. But this is, this is the Eventide, the 2016. This is a stereo room. It's a warm room setting, decay about 344. And it just has a cool sound. So let me give it some.
We were always chillin', any reason to hang out. Said we make $1 million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the back.
If you ever want to hear what your reverbs are doing, stop. So this is a very short reverb. I'm going to let it go in and out.
We were always chillin', any reason to hang out. Said we make $1 million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy.
Right, so maybe just a hair. Bring it there. I usually do reverbs and delays in increments of 5, because that's how I can hear it. Okay, so next I'm going to add just a little bit of like a textural delay.
We were always chillin', any reason to hang out. Said we.
And this is the H3000 from Eventide. It does just some really cool vocal effects. There's tons of different really cool presets. I think this is just some random preset that I found, and I use it a lot. It gives you good depth. So
we were always chillin', any reason to hang out. Said we make $1 million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were. We were always chillin'.
I like the way you're using that room and the delay to some extent. It's not sounding like reverb.
correct.
It's sounding like the vocals.
Yeah, but the vocals don't
big.
sound dry.
Yeah,
It's
just getting bigger.
for sure. So we're increasing kind of that vocal depth, that vocal width without you know, introducing phasing with something like Micro Shift might do, you know. It doesn't have like that Phil Collins 80s sound too, but it doesn't feel like it's little tiny, right? It's kind of fat in there. So
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. If you want that sound, you know, absolutely do it. But this is kind of what is going on with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out? Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're in those
Very
crazy.
modern sound.
Yep. But we use it a little bit, right? Just a little bit. We don't. The thing about these reverbs is we really don't want them to be heard. We just want them to be felt.
Yeah.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out? Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford.
Then I'm going to add the chamber. So this is the Sunset Chamber setting, the Bricasti M7 from. This is still the Verb Suite Classic, but it's based on the Bricasti. This is a cool sound.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out? Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams.
Oops, another one. So what we can EQ this. It's a little bit of low end in it.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out? Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the back street.
By itself.
And we were dancing off.
Right? So it's really, you know, subtle, but to me, like a rich, lush sound.
But now we can't afford
Those feel
a
really
house.
familiar.
Right.
It's a very familiar sound for this genre.
Yep.
It sounds great.
But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the back street. And we were dancing off beat. Just
Yep. So, you know, I could do more, like if I want to add some more. But the thing is that Adam, when he did his background vocals, he has some reverb on those background vocals.
so take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Say I'm too late, but we'll never be sorry.
So I'm gonna let his reverbs on these background vocals do the heavy reverb lifting, right? Because it's always gonna keep my lead super clean, super clear. But it's not gonna be like, oh, it's too dry or whatever.
The ear kind of hears it as all as one thing.
Correct. I'll probably switch these into another bus, but in context, and maybe I'll run it through this too, but
So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Say I'm too late, but we'll never be sorry. We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out?
okay, cool. Moving on. Now what I want to do is I want to mess with the texture some more.
So take me back to those nights that made our.
I don't even know what's happening there.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out? Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those.
Okay. So from here, what I like to do is just impart more harmonics, right? Some more harmonic saturation. So let's see what it sounds like if we drive this a little bit.
We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out? Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the back street. And we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party.
So I think it just kind of makes it sit in the mix a little bit better. Another plugin I love to use for this is the 9000J, and just kind of mess around with this. I'm not doing anything with it, just
We were always chilling. any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet.
Cool. All right. Now, another thing I like to do, and sometimes I'll run buses to this, is the Manly Verimue. So that one's got a cool little texture too.
Yep.
I'd love to try the one. They got a cool one over here. But we're staying in the box today. Let's see, Manly Verimue. Oh, better run this one.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet.
All right, and then from here, I like to do a little bit more dynamic EQing just on treble spots, because as we do this saturation, as we do a little bit more compression, the textural things, we're getting a little bit more of that low end.
It's interesting because I think people wonder how they get that really tight pop vocal sound. It's not going to be probably one plugin or two plugins that's doing a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of little
small things
adding up to where it just sounds perfect and clean.
Exactly, because the thing is if you do too much with any one plugin, it's noticeable.
Yep.
The thing about pop is it's very compressed, it's very locked in, but you don't ever hear it, right? We can't, if you hit a compressor for like 15 dB, but we're easily doing 15 dB of compression,
right?
If not more. We're just doing it in small stages, and you always have to keep the end result in mind, I think, and that takes time.
Yep.
Right? So it's a little bit, it's not the easiest thing.
Always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a meal, but now we can't afford a house. We're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. So we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house. We're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. That made our hearts beat, stay out too late. Too late, but we'll never be sorry. We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those.
I'm comfortable with that. I may brighten it up just a hair. I don't know the room that well, but
It's close.
yeah, that's where it's like, okay, let's get the rest of the mix in line, and then we'll do that. So the lead is what's super important to me on this.
Yeah, I should also mention the other side of what I just mentioned with the small moves is you can also over process.
Correct.
You're not, because you know
Right.
exactly what you're doing, but it doesn't mean throw everything at it.
Correct. Like, this is a lot, but the reason why there's a lot on this is because I'm trying to achieve a very specific sound based on, you know, the program material, right? Based on that this microphone is just a hair scratchy, right? Just a little dusty.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to use a lot of small things to make the texture just a little bit more polished
Smooth.
on it. But if you already have that, maybe I just use an EQ, maybe just use a compressor.
Yeah.
Right? The better you record it, the better your recording environment is, the better your performance is, the less mixing you have to do.
Yep.
So what I would have done, like if I was recording it myself, probably 3 or 4 of these plugins would have been easily done in the tracking stage.
Right.
I think it's a really good point. Yeah, you don't have to go crazy. Like, you can stop. I could stop here. It's
It's
whatever.
just know what you're doing and
Right.
and solve the problems you need to solve and enhance the things you need to enhance, but don't think you need to do a certain thing just because you saw us do it.
Be intentional.
Intentional.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were.
All right. So that's sounding good. I like the piano. I like the Studio D chorus is a fun one for piano.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford.
And so what's happening is now the piano sounds good. The vocal sounds good, but I'm losing, the vocal is not as much of the focus anymore. So remember, the piano has to work with the vocal. So let's take this, and I'm going to just dip the mid in here and see if I can get that vocal to stand out.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry.
All right, I'm going to do a little bit more side processing with this. Let's bring out the tubes.
We were always chilling, any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we.
Cool.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's partially sound design, but I think you took a sound that was kind of plain-ish, just made it more interesting.
Thank you. I thought it sounded pretty good myself.
Yeah. very
But
nice.
yeah, the idea is like I said, you know, the drums have the depth, the vocals are the star of the show. Now I'm trying to make everything kind of come up and around it to support, but still not take away from that lead.
Don't get in the way.
Right. So that's a lot of using like mid-side stuff. You just have to experiment with the sound. I wish there was like a cheat code I could give you for mid-side, but you do too much, it sounds bad. You don't do enough, it gets in the way of the vocals.
Do too much, it sounds phasey and weird. I promise.
So if it just you will mess things up.
Totally.
Like, you will mess it up. That's part of it.
Totally.
The other main thing that's going on in this is the vocals. Not the vocals, the acoustic. And then we're almost done with the mix. There's a few of these little elements in here, but that's super easy to figure out. So yeah, let's keep it moving.
But now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down.
Right, and so what I don't want to do is I don't want to start taking out elements I've already mixed to then mix this, right? Because whatever one we choose, it has to work together. So this one, I like it, but it's taking up a lot of space. How do I keep it and have it stand out and not take up as much space? Well, we're going to treat it kind of like how I treated those shakers, right? Because it's doing boom, boom, it's not like a zing, zing guitar,
Right.
you know? I'm going to pull, I mean, split EQ is great for this, but I'm going to really try to pull those transients out and then blend it back into the mix. So.
But now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off.
Let's see what's going on right here.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me.
All right. Now let's pull up this 9000J. I like the compressor on this, so let's see what it feels like when we make it push it forward.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those.
Now, the thing is, the middle's getting bunched up, but we only have one of these, so we can do like a phasey thing with the keys. But what if we throw it to a side, and then we use another one, like that room reverb, and we put that to the other side? Let's see how that feels. We'll go room, and here, if you have the link panner to main fader, right? We'll take that off, and we can throw it to the other side. Let's see.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Oh, back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back.
Very
Sounding
subtle.
good?
Yeah, nice.
Now we have a little bit more space for it, but I do feel like it can like shine. We needed to shine a little bit. There are different EQs that sound different, and I love the Avalon EQs. They just have this very specific sound to them. So let's see what happens if we can brighten it up with this.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever.
We'll use that shaker as our guide, right? So we don't want to go over that shaker.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Oh,
I hear that da-na-na-na, right? I'm hearing that feel like a few spots. So I brought a little bit of that back out. All right, let's keep it moving. So right here, there's not a whole lot going on, right? There's a little bit at the end. So let's see what these background vocals are doing.
back to the sun. Take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. We were always chilling. Any reason to.
I'm going to split this off, right? I'm going to turn this into I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to use this for my background vocal bus too, just for fun. We're going to see. And we'll call this BGVs. We'll send all these to BGVs. Now the idea behind this is I don't want, when these background vocals play, I don't want them to make the vocals, I don't want it to affect the compression on the vocals.
Take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Say out too late, but we're.
We gotta change this one.
Take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Say out too late, but we'll never be sorry. We were always chilling.
All right, and lastly, what I'm gonna do with this is I want the size to come up around this. So this is a really cool
Take me
plugin.
back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Say out too late, but we'll never be sorry. We were always chilling. Any reason to hang out. Said we make a million, yeah. But now we can't afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet. And we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly.
So
Tell me the move you did 2 moves ago. With
the background vocals?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just used this
What is this?
plugin, Kive Audio Infuse. It's based on like a Neve mastering bus processor and the SSL Fusion.
Yeah.
And so it does I just use it. It has a really good stereo widener on it.
Now we can't afford a house. Still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down.
So I'm just
Now we
trying to
can't
get this.
afford a house. And we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18. And nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the backstreet. And we were dancing off beat. Just take me.
Starting to
Come together.
Nicholas de Porcel, when I was doing a thing with him, he talked about the sound of like music crawling up the speakers and like just kind of engulfing.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
starting to do that.
Yeah, it's that organic nature of it, right? We're just really making sure that the parts that need to be focused are very focused. And then the other parts have to, like you said, has to crawl up, it has to engulf us, it has to that's the light, that's the magic in it, but it's not as magical if the other parts still aren't the star, if that makes sense. So, yeah, so now here, let's see, I think there's a little tom fill. Let's see how that feels.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back.
Let's mess it up. So let's grab that. We'll go back to our Renaissance axe. It's a great one for this. So what I'm going to do is I want way more energy out of that. Right now it's just like, do-do-do-do. I want it, right? And it just kind of has that. It can pull that out of it. So let's see. I'm going to really crank this. We're going to see how it feels.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me.
Down some.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me. We were dancing off beat. Just take me back.
Almost.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back.
All right, and let's give it a little bit of reverb. It has it on there, but let's see. I like our room reverb. Let's see if it can, sometimes adding a touch of the reverb that you're using on the vocals can give it like cohesion.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me
See
back.
how it's like that top end now a little bit more?
Yep.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back.
And I
Very nice.
believe there's a little crash at the end. Let's let the crash.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we.
That was loud.
Lots of crash.
Let's get that, pull that back. Let's start 5 dB. Let's see how that feels. So, and what I'm doing right now is like how does it feel, right? How does it feel? Now, if a frequency jumps out to me, cool, but I just really want it to feel how I want it to feel. You know, I want it to bring in the hook, but I don't want it to be like, oh, I just heard it, the cymbal crash. You know, you just want that hook to, you know, but it's not overpowering.
Right.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back.
Toms feel a little loud. 21, bring it down 3 dB, we'll go 25, 3.5.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summer.
Take a little presence out of the crash.
We were dancing.
Certain sounds, if they get scratchy or fuzzy, they'll make everything else sound like that, right?
Talking about where it's competing
like-
with the vocal too.
I don't know. Yeah, it's competing a little bit. I'm not too worried about it, but the texture of that crash, I feel like, diminishes the work that we put into the texture of everything else.
We got a lot of polish, and
Right.
it's making everything sound
But yeah, it's more edgy.
edgy, dirty.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to.
It's your 4K range, huh?
There it is.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back.
And let's give it just a hair of brightness. But I want transparent brightness. So
Are you
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about air?
yes. So if we do like some high air on that, it will make that hook jump out, but not be, you know, not too much.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the sun. We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summer. We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we heart.
We talked a lot about this and this. That's a move where that moment feels tall.
But so, you know, earlier we talked about the canvas, and I didn't go too much in depth with it. But if we think about mixing as a canvas, you've got if all we had was 2D, you have panning is our left and right, and then within that, what would make panning the top of that is frequency, right? So higher frequencies, lower is lower frequency. So what that does is by adding that in is it extends the frequency range of the song. So like you said, it makes it go like this, and it for the hook, it's like, oh, I didn't know the hook could open up that much.
Right.
Right. And so that's like a little trick. Some people like roll off the verses. Maybe they roll it off to like 16.5.
Right.
Right. To where it's still not dull, but you know, just a hair. And then all of a sudden when the hook comes, they take the filter off. And now it's like, oh, there's such a wider frequency range.
Makes the song naturally elevate.
Correct. And you don't have
turning it up.
turn it up. You don't have to do those things. So in this case, this crash is a great way to do that because where it comes in are just really on these heavy hits, right?
Yeah.
So hook, they have like a reverse in there, but that's fine.
Cool.
We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Time together. Ooh, play Nintendo, argue who's better. Yeah. Ooh, now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I still remember. Ooh, we spent so much time together. Yeah. Ooh.
I like the kick, but let's make this other kick. So now what we're doing is now I'm just like listening through, right? I'm just adding the pieces in that I didn't have in there before.
Yep.
But you could hear like the way that that tom energy came in was so much different.
I should grow up, but I still remember.
This with the processing.
I should grow up, but I still remember.
So these are a little bit hotter down here. They feel like it. So let's lower these. We'll bring it down 2 dB.
Hardly ever, but I I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up to remember. Ooh, we would spend so much time together. Ooh, play Nintendo, argue is better. Ooh, now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I should remember. Just take me back to the summer that we.
These are a little loud. Let's bring these back down. So we're getting close.
You have that electric guitar that comes in there. Are you feeling anything on that?
Yes, I am.
It's kind of like,
It comes in a little funny right
yeah,
here at
it's
the
just
end.
like a little dance around the mid-range
Yep.
muddiness.
Let's see. I'm going to, let me check these real quick. We'll jump on that.
Just take me back to the summer that.
Just a hair more.
Just take me back to.
All right. Yes. So we'll address that. I also I'm not all the way digging that guitar, just on that part. I like the way it's processed here.
Yep.
So let's have a quick listen and see what's actually happening.
I'm actually
here.
curious what you would do on these, because I think they're tricky.
Well, let me hear.
Now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I should remember. Just take me back to the summer that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Say I'm too late, but say I'm too late, never be so. Now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I should remember. Just take me back to the summer that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to. Say I'm too. Now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I should remember.
I think I'll pull out the interviews.
Now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up.
Let's do this. I feel like it has like a little bit too much verb.
Yeah, I was saying this is one where I'd probably reach back out and get the dry, if they had it.
Yeah. So let's say that's not an option.
Right.
So what else do we do? I really like this Clarity. You ever mess with this?
Yeah.
Clarity VX? It's a good one. Let's try Old Faithful here. Let's grab a C4. They have a cool setting. Dave Pensato has a good vocal setting. I think might work on this. Because it kind of dips right here. Let's see.
They're hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I should remember. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Say I'm too late, but we'll never be sorry. Never be sorry, be sorry, yeah. Say I'm too late, never be sorry, yeah. Say I'm too.
I think it's not. It's not amazing, but it's not
Better
as
for sure.
offensive as it was.
Ooh, now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up.
Let's see. I'll lift the sides on the master a little bit, and it'll come up around its own. Here's a fun one. If anybody, let's throw some, see if we can get some harmonic content on it. Yes, M3. Here we go. So let's do this. Mid-side master.
Now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I should remember. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry.
And we'll listen to these little guitars.
Million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We want that outcast in the backstreet, and we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Stay out too late, we'll never be sorry, be sorry, yeah. Stay out too late, we'll never be sorry, yeah. Stay out too. Ooh.
Just throw a little de-esser on that. That's feeling good. Then let's see what's going on at the beginning.
I've been reminiscing.
Bring this down some.
I've been reminiscing, lost in nostalgic, cause summertime is different, and got me thinking about taking it way back to those nights we vowed to stay as carefree as 18-year-olds know how. I kept my CDs in the back.
So now that we have everything controlled, typically is when I go back in and I would automate. So for something like this.
I've been reminiscing, lost in nostalgic, cause summertime is different, and got me thinking back.
I'm gonna do it on the processed. Oh, cool.
I've been reminiscing, lost in nostalgic, cause summertime is different, and got me thinking about taking it way back to those nights we vowed to stay as carefree as 18-year-olds know how. I kept my CDs in the backseat, and we were singing off key, but it didn't matter, yeah. Just sing me back to the
Alright, same thing with this.
free as 18-year-olds know how. I kept my CDs in the backseat, and we were singing off key, but it.
So I'll give it a little bit more of that chamber reverb on that one to kind of blend with those background vocals, because the background vocals are mixed a little bit more for when everything drops.
Nice.
But it already has his processing on it. So this one I might reach out and say, hey, just send me the beginning background vocals so I can make them a little bit more like the lead just for that one part. Same thing here.
Free as 18-year-olds know how. I kept my CDs in the backseat, and we were singing off key, but it didn't matter, yeah.
Just a little bit too much.
Free as 18-year-olds know how. I kept my CDs in the backseat, and we were singing off key, but it didn't matter, yeah. Just sing me back.
So little stuff like that. Then lastly, kind of once I have that all locked in, I'll go through and I'll finish up like some touches up on the master. So I'm just gonna do it, and then I will walk you through how I'm hearing it.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Never be sorry, be sorry, yeah. Stay out too late, never be sorry, yeah. Stay out too back to the summers that we hardly.
So remember earlier we talked about this, the knee. So if you watch this at a lower knee, it comes in much smoother. What I wanted to do is kind of catch behind the kicks. So with the hard knee at a higher ratio, I'm only doing a little bit, but the style of the compression is a little bit more, fits the way that I'm mixing, I think. Now, I like the auto release on this. I always hear people talk about the glue, which I don't think is a great word, but the auto will give you the glue, what you're looking for. It does a really good job, but it does contain, so if you need the mix to pop a little bit more, that 0.1 is a good option. I always put it on 30. I don't ever put it less than 30 for a mix bus. But that's just typically my settings on these. Depending on, I might do a 4-to-1, but usually on the master I'm at a 10-to-1 just because I want that hard knee on it.
Interesting.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Never be sorry, be sorry, yeah. Stay out too late, never be sorry, be sorry.
Okay, so here's a few things I like to do. They're fun with the ozone. They don't make a huge difference, but I think it sounds cool.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Never be sorry, be sorry, yeah. Stay out too late, never be sorry, yeah. Stay out too.
So, and my kick is hitting a little hard on this, so I might grab that, pull that back just a hair. Let's take this transient shaper off, see what happens.
To the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry.
Let's tighten. So a good compressor too I like to use on these sometimes is like the DBX 160. It works really well on this. Let's see if that can lock it in just a little bit more stylistically. If it was like a big hip hop record, I might let it hit that hard. But as I'm listening to like the final mix of it, I'm like, there it is.
Back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll never be sorry. Never be sorry, be sorry, yeah. Stay out too late, never be sorry, yeah. Stay out too.
Put it down.
Back to the sun.
That guitar is a little loud. So, you know, at this point it's just really small stuff, however you're feeling. You turn that up, but let's see. Let's turn the reverb down on it some. Oh, let's just drop it down. We took too much of it. So sometimes, you know, the simplest solution is the best solution.
now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing.
The infuse is great on the bus, the master bus too.
Million, yeah, but now we can't afford a house, and we're still chasing those crazy dreams we had when we were 18, and nothing could keep us down. We bumped that outcast in the back street, and we were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. We were dancing off beat. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry about the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our heart. We've spent so much time together. Ooh. Play Nintendo, argue who's better, yeah. Ooh, now we see each other hardly ever. But I should grow up, yeah, I should grow up, but I still remember. Just take me back to the summers that we hardly ever had to worry.
Those
Cool.
are some really nice last moves there. Just did this, got taller, got bigger, cleaned up a couple resonances.
Yep.
But it helped a lot.
Yeah, it's just those final touches. You know, I would say a lot of times earlier in my career, I would do too much. You know, but it's like, can it take a little bit? Okay, right. But if it starts to change the whole balance, then yeah, I try to avoid it. But just a little bit clearer, a little bit wider. I think kind of without the mastering stuff, it would be the extra mastering stuff.
About the next party. So take me back to those nights that made our hearts beat. Stay out too late, but we'll
Just make it pop. I'd probably go back to and listen to a fresh ears.
Totally.
There might be a little bit of scratchiness or something in
Yeah,
there. But
client feedback, do the
Yeah.
whole thing. But this would be fine to send to a client or to listen to the next day and
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
last tweaks.
I would, maybe some small automation stuff. And then if you had like a mastering engineer, so I'm like, okay, I'll send it to Caleb, I know Caleb's going to master it once the artist approves it. Not saying that you shouldn't be able to do everything on your own, but a second set of ears never hurts. So the main thing that I'm focusing on as a mixer in this is the feel of it, right? Does it feel good? Because I can always go back and make small adjustments, too mid-rangey or too whatever, but does it feel good? And that's everything that I focus on.
Is it fun?
With this? Yeah. Is it fun? Are we getting the idea across? And so hopefully some of these techniques are things that, you can use. Hopefully these techniques, you can apply them, to the mix you're currently doing or to future mixes and the mindset. I think, really what I hope the takeaway for this is like how we think about mixing. So
I think that's a great way to end because I think there were a lot of tips and tricks and different things you could take away from this and plugins that were used, but that's not really the point of any of this. I mean, take those and use them in context, but really what matters is the why behind all the stuff that he was doing here. So make sure you understand, even if it was a tip or a trick or a certain plugin, what's the why behind what you were doing. If you can do that, you'll get a lot of, just thank you for doing this. Tons of nuggets. I loved watching this. Some really brilliant moments. And yeah, I'm sure everyone's going to really love watching this.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Huge thanks again to Kevin for doing this. I'm excited to officially announce that Kevin is our newest mentor inside our degree alternative audio school program called The Reverse Engineer. So if you want to learn from him and even hop on a Zoom call with Kevin to ask questions and get feedback on your music, as well as access to our comprehensive curriculum covering mastering, mixing and production, and a whole lot more, then head to mastering.com to learn all about it. Either way, if you haven't seen our free 10-hour compression course, I also highly recommend you check that out here on YouTube, and that's going to help you become an absolute pro when it comes to compression. Okay, that's it for today. Head to mastering.com if you want to learn more about our audio school, or you can check out the compression course here on YouTube.